Good morning. My name is Laurence Pulgram, and with Kelli Murray, we are the co-chairs of the annual operating fund drive, also known as Pledge. Hold your applause till 3 weeks from now when we're finished. Kelli won the coin toss, and she elected to take whichever service required the least speaking, and so she last week warned you that Pledge would start this week. And she did such an amazing job and looked so professional at that when we returned to our seats, someone said to me, one of the newer attendees, "Wow, it is so great. You guys get to do this every year." And I said, decidedly not the case. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But we are loving it because it is really a fine opportunity for us to try to give back and to be grateful for what we get from this church. We're going to talk about that in just 1 second, but first I wanted to talk a little bit, just 1 second, about the luncheon today. Everyone is invited. It is the proverbial free lunch. There will be free childcare. There will be free wine. We are going to sit down to a first course and start the spoken program, and then tables will stand in turn and go get their food. And when others are going through the buffet line, we encourage the people who are at their table to discuss among themselves a brief and spectacular aspect of Unitarianism for them. Why do you pledge? Why are you here? Kelli and I are going to do that in just a second ourselves. So you can be thinking about that, but please not during the silent meditation. For those who aren't going to be at lunch, there was a letter that has been sent around to everyone with more details about pledging. We will be tracking the results of Pledge with the Grow Our Light flame of success that my daughter Mara has made, our daughter Mara, that is outside the sanctuary that will show as we reach our lofty aspirations this year. And though Kelli and I are up here, because we were the people who got to do this year, really all of you are the reason that the organization, the community, the church that we are is so successful. And so we want to come down to where you guys are to tell the story of why we're Unitarians. So my name's Laurence. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I am the son of I was raised Unitarian, actually. My father was a refugee from the Holocaust whose family did not survive. He came from Vienna. My mother was a Southern belle who was a liberal spirit and had a conscience, and we went to the Unitarian Church for my whole life growing up.
And I am a lapsed Catholic, daughter of an immigrant mother from Mexico, and who married my father, a working-class guy who grew up in Marin City. So we met each other in law school, and after just 12 years, we were married by the then Unitarian minister here, Victor Carpenter. And we were living in the city, and we started coming to the UU Church about a little bit after our son Daniel was born, because we're looking for how do we want to be a spiritual family, and what are the values that are important to us. And a few years after we joined the church, we went through some unbearably difficult times as we embarked on the process of trying to adopt a child. And one Sunday evening, there was a knock at our home in the Haight, and it was our minister who had seen that I was very distraught in church that day. And that minister thought that maybe we just needed to talk. And we did, and it helped so much.
Not too long after that, we were blessed with the adoption of Mara, who is here. And We ultimately moved over to Marin County. We live in Mill Valley. But we've always kept coming to this church because this was where we connected. And because we wanted to be part of the real world, not just suburbia. And we wanted to be in a community that cared about the sorts of values that this place cares about. And so our kids went through the whole RE program. They had secret friends. When we had that program, we got to be secret friends for other people. They went on street retreats in the Tenderloin. They visited all sorts of denominations and other religious places of worship all over the city. And they roamed free at the church retreat up in Occidental. In fact, Mara learned to crawl on the rather crusty stage of the church retreat. Then they all both went through the rites of passage, and they grew up in a community that they trusted and that respected everything that was individual and unique about them.
When Daniel entered the Coming of Age program in high school, he chose Thad Smith to be his mentor. Lucky Daniel. If you know Thad, you know how compassionate and kind he is. A friendship blossomed, and they're still hanging out today now that Daniel has graduated from college and moved to Berkeley. During the program, Daniel had to do a service project, and he came up with the idea of solar panels for the church. How hard could that be, right? With Thad's encouragement and support, Daniel went out and researched it, and together they came up with the starting information that showed solar might just work. And as you know, we now have a beautiful solar array. And Thad, of course, then made it happen, joining with so many others to live our values.
Thad and Daniel were bold. A few years later, when Mara went through the Coming of Age program, he asked, who else? She asked Lucy Smith to be her mentor. And Lucy, probably having very few other things to do in her life, said yes. And Lucy passed to Mara, much as Thad had passed to Daniel, that sense of unrestrained and uncompromising support that this society gives to all of its families, all of its youth, and all of its friends. This ultimately played out in Mara's graduation from the Coming of Age program when she stood up at that pulpit in front of a pretty full room and was able to talk about her battles with anxiety and depression. She asked me to emphasize that she doesn't usually even show up in public, much less speak there. But she was brave, and she was bold, and she was funny, and people laughed, and people cried, and Mara said that she had always felt supported here, and she said that she was going to make it, and she is. And that's because of the support of all the people here.
Thank you, Thad. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you all, you friends. And now let's go out and pay it forward.